Well, hello. It is Friday, the 6th of February, and the microphone is right here. Hope you're all doing well. Bit of a recovery in the market today, but we'll go into what I think a little bit later on. But for now, that's the wrong screen. So we're going to go to the market. We're up 2.85%. So we have recovered somewhat, but oh, wrong button. I'm facing a slightly different way, you see. Um, yeah, I mean, it looks like a bullish engulfing, which is nice, but I just don't fully trust it, you know. That's the cues. And then the spy here. So it's a lovely day. In fact, it really is a lovely day. What's driving it? So Nvidia's up 7%. That would probably be the main driver. Yeah, we'll jump into the charts in just a second. However, just sorting some bits out here. But welcome to the stream. Hope you've had a good trading day or are having a good trading day. Mine could have been better. It was red. I had a couple of trades earlier, but I'm going to stop there, I think. But of course, we will have a look just in case to see if there's anything around. This is not what I want to be on. I want to be on the 5-minute chart. We want to add the power hour breakout. As you can see, that's the indicator, which you will get upon sign up for free, of course. And then what we do is we normally start here. Okay, right. I've gone without music today. It's a bit quiet for me. However, when I watch the stream back, it's really annoying. So hopefully I've done you a favor there by not having any music. Just means I have to kind of fill out the void of silence. Um, but that's okay. That's why we're here. Anyway, okay. So what we want to do is have a look at the Edgeable platform. We're going to go to Power Hour Breakout Report. We could alternatively click on the templates, but you know, I want to show you how I set them up first. So let's go. Let's reset that by going to a different report. That'll do for now. So what we have to do is simply tap on the Power Hour Breakout Report here in the top right hand corner, and then we just select one of our assets. For now, we'll go to SPY. And you can see already the data shows us that there's going to be a potentially 24% chance of a new high of day made because we're trading near the highs on a lot of things. So we'll stick with the new high of day today. Yesterday was a new low of day. But first, we want to hit the sub report and we're going to go down to weekday, and that will separate all of the Fridays in the last 6 months. Now, of course, you can go a bit longer. You can go 1 year if you want to. That's fine. We'll stick for 1 year tonight. Maybe why not? Bit of extra data doesn't hurt. You can see that's 22% chance that it will get back above this line up here, which is not too bad. I like it below 20, to be honest. So that's why we can then cycle through the stocks to see what's lower, basically. So let's have a little look in terms of the charts first. So at the highs, as you expect. Actually, Apple near the lows. Interesting. Amazon kind of flat in the middle, bit above the middle, to be fair. Why is that? Oh, I've still got this set up as the last half an hour. That would have been good to check. So we're actually going to set that back to 3. There we go. That's the start of the power hour. My mistake. Have I still got it here? No, that's still 1 hour. Good. Okay, this data is correct. It's just my chart on here was not correct. Always good to check the chart setup before you do anything else. Okay, Alibaba near the highs of the day. Looks like it's going to break the highs, so we won't touch that. We've got Google kind of not quite near the lows. Netflix really flat. Nvidia's already broken the highs of the day, continuing its really good day. Meta is right in the middle. Microsoft really near the top, and Tesla right at the top as well. So you can actually go ahead and click on Tesla if you wanted to, which we will do now. There we go, Tesla. And you can see there's a 16% chance a new high of day is made. So 16% chance it gets back above this line. So you could, in fact, place a short trade here, and you would have basically zero risk. Short trade there, nice big stop loss if you wanted to, 0.25%, and then your target price would be the most recent lowish, I would probably say. Alternatively, you can then go ahead and click on the initial balance breakout report. This is supposed to be an intro, but I seem to just waffled on for 5 minutes. And then you can go ahead and bring up these initial balance breakout lines, which you can play down to. So you could probably play down to here actually. That would be a nice target, and that's a risk to reward ratio of 3.58. But the market as it's in at the moment, it's very volatile. It seems to be rebounding quite a lot, at least just today. So it's been quite a risky trade to get into, but definitely one you could get into. And I would like to do so very much. Have a look. But let me get some details up on the screen so you can kind of see. I've stuck the link in the YouTube description for Edgeval if you're interested in having a look at that. And of course, you can go to edgeval.com, as you can see on the screen there. And on my X stream, it will be in the comments as a comment. And you can see me just above the edgeval.com sign there. Okay. Rocking and rolling. Get rid of that for now. So this is the trade we're looking at tonight. Nice Tesla one. You could do the US 100 and 500, but I think they're just a bit too close. And plus, it's already just broken because I obviously had the chart set the last half an hour, so the last hour. So technically, it has actually broken new highs. Probably the same for SPY. Yes, very much so. So the only one that's in play is Tesla. So we'll have a look at that and go with that. Because there probably will be a bit of profit taking. People, the day traders at least. I'm not too sure the swing trades will be profit taking because they will be very much in the red given the week we've had. Let's have a look at the week actually. Neo's had a good week, which is nice to see. Okay, what are we on? Hourly. Go to the daily. I mean, Apple hasn't had a bad week. I don't know what people are crying about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up really nicely this week for Apple. Amazon falling off a bit of a cliff there, obviously after earnings last night. Capital expenditure very, very high as expected. Seems to have hit the stock pretty hard, which is a bit of a shame. Alibaba kind of still trading around normal levels. Not really looking to get into this at all, to be honest. Been there, done that at the moment. Where I would look to maybe add, you might say, you've got a bit of a trend line here actually. So if we came back down to kind of 155-ish, that sort of area, that would be nice. Google, finding a nice bit of support around the 50-moving average. Good to see, although it has had a bit of a move. I'd be scared of this gap fill here. That's a bit of a drop though. There's another gap there. I don't know why I'm doing this. I have a gap. I have a gap indicator. So the gaps are on the screen there. Oop. Whoopsie. Okay, so the gaps are here on the screen as you can see. So perhaps this one would be nice. It's the 200 moving average coming up around about 260. It's very possible if we do get a bit of a bigger swing in the market to the downside. Netflix trading a bit flat as well. Nvidia with a nice, that's a beautiful candle to kind of come back into the realm of existence. I could probably redraw this to maybe a little bit more precision. Yeah. Okay. That would have been nicer drawing, to be honest. Sometimes I do that. I draw the trend lines on the bigger time frames, and then forget to kind of adjust them in the lower time frames. If anyone else does that. See what's going on in Edgeval in the Edgeval one. So as I mentioned before, you can actually change the sub report from standard to weekday to open. I personally like weekday just because if you're trading on a particular day, like obviously today, Friday, it makes sense to have all of the data on the Friday, because different days have different events. So Monday has a lot of volume because people are kind of having over the weekend. Wednesday would have FOMC potentially, and then there's a lot of Tuesdays in the past which have had CPI data and things like that. Just things to look out for, jobs reports. Big earnings tend to happen on Wednesdays and Thursdays, so there's that to take into account as well. But generally, if you just tap on the day, you've got all the data there in front of you, so it's not too bad at all. So that's why I select weekday on the sub report there. Date range, typically you do 6 months. So then you get the data does change a little bit. So you've got 15 and 7. We change it to 1 year. 16 and 8. So it's not too much difference. And of course, the total days, the total Fridays in the last year have been 50, which makes sense. 50 weeks. Because today would be 51. But obviously today's data is not on there because it hasn't finished yet. So if we go to 6 month one, we're just playing with less data. That's all it is. What I've liked to do in the past as well is have a look at when market is in a certain way. So obviously we're in a bit of a swing traders market where it just hasn't stopped going up for since April of last year, so almost a year. We've had a bit of a wobble in this last week, of course, which is fair. But yeah, if you could date it towards like from November, not November. What am I doing? What I'm actually talking about is April down here, just above my head there. That's since the market has kind of properly bounced. It's gone basically up since. So you could date it back to April, and the way you do that, very simply, date range. Just go back to April last year. Let's say I think it's the 20th. I think is when the market started recovering until today, because it's already selected today, 2nd of February. And then you can see with the data that's been provided from that time frame, it's changed a bit. So instead of having, what was it, like 14 and 8 or something, we've got 15 and 5. So you can see the difference between that, just in the type of market. That's always one to kind of take into account for sure. This trade is still playing out relatively nicely, not too bad. Got 15 minutes left of the market. Supports and resistances, of course, you want to have a look at a bit of confluence. So you can have previous days highs and lows, a bit of confluence. I'm not too sure that taken into account here, no, because yesterday was quite wild. Of course, EMAs as well. It's always a bit of fun, especially if you're kind of coming up to a certain resistance point or going down to a support. And then just having a look on the bigger time frames, of course, having the bigger resistances. So we've got, let's get rid of that indicator. I don't know why it does that on the hourly. That's the wrong one. Oh no, it's both. Both of them are in the way. And you can see there that in fact this is actually perfect. That is support and resistance. Support's been touched a few times in the hourly, coming back up to its resistance. And you can see that's probably why it's going to struggle to get through this, at least in the immediate term. So we jump back into the 5 minutes, and that's why we have that line there. In fact, that's perfect. That one and that one. Of course, if it does get back above that line, then it will turn into a very nice support once again. I'll blow my nose. A funny feeling this might break to highs just because of the way the market is going today. Let's have a look at a few other names while we're here. I've had a bit of a strong day, but of course, given what's happened to a lot of stocks in the last few weeks, tricky to say we're back going to all-time highs after one day. But if you look on the right side here, tons of green compared to yesterday's live stream. Tons of green. I mean, Bitcoin up a massive 12% after yesterday's 14% drop. IWM, small caps getting a bit of a bid. To be honest with you, that's a nice little parallel channel as well. Could be saved like that. Could be back on. We'll have a look at the SPY in a minute. I do have bigger time frame to kind of resistant points to kind of be aware of. At least at 13%. I mean, it's just coming back to 20-minute average. If we can get through that, then maybe. Rivian had to bounce here, to be honest, because this is my buy zone. I did buy some today for the longer term. That's nice. But we still have a lot of moving averages to get through. Neo today, up 8%. Lovely to see after their news release yesterday about their profitability for next quarter, or last quarter. But they're going to be reporting it in probably March. Very much look forward to that. Grab up 4%, still dropping the bucket compared to, you see what I mean? These numbers look good, but compared to where they were or what's happened in the last couple of weeks, it's nothing. Snapchat still struggling, Hims still struggling. This is actually an area that I would like to kind of add to, but I'm a bit hesitant at the moment because it's in a bit of free fall. You can see with these last three candles, this is why I'm not buying it at the moment. You know, I'll look back at this in a year's time and I'll be like, why didn't I buy it then? But just how I feel at the moment. So, you know, open, drop, open, drop, open, drop, and then gap down. So it's just not healthy price action. CoreWeave up 20%. To be fair, that's a nice bounce. Still playing within this overall wedge. Let's get rid of these lines. So this overall wedge that's basically been created since inception, really. NBIS having a bit of a bounce as well off the 300 moving average down there. Coinbase, of course, doing pretty well because Bitcoin is. ACHR, which is the drone company, same with Joby, not too bad. But again, you can see these stocks, even just, it's just basically coming back to the price it was at the beginning of the week. So these numbers have big numbers, but actually they're not doing that well. Again, flat on the week. That's a nice support there for AMD, to be fair. 200 moving average and the support line of $200. So it definitely needs to be bought there. Snowflake doing pretty well. I still prefer it down at 140, 141. We have earnings on the 25th of February, so a few weeks. Yeah, we'll leave that for now. Tesla trade is still going strong into the last 10 minutes. Hasn't really made that move down yet. What we'd be looking for is obviously breaking this trend line would be ideal. The downside, of course. Could actually just draw it from there and have that nice and tight like that. So we'll see how that goes for the next 10 minutes or so. But what I wanted to touch on was obviously the link for Edgefield is down in the description, as I mentioned, and then as a comment on X. But once you join, you have to have a watch of these videos for sure, because you've got chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and that's it. So not many videos. I mean, you've got what, 1, 2, 8, 10, 12 videos there to watch, and all of them together are less than 2 hours. So, and I actually haven't watched one because I added one recently about how to use templates, which is quite simple but handy to watch, just a little 5-minute guide just to clarify what you already know, type of thing. So you might think, oh, I don't need to watch these. I think I've mastered it straight away. One, I think that's the wrong attitude to have if you're coming into anything related to trading. But two, yeah, grow up and watch the videos. Uh, he says not having watched one video. However, I did it recently. What's in play feature is pretty good. Not ideal for me really because I trade the power hour breakout report, but I understand people really would really use it on the opening reports. I had a setup here before, but I thought I saved it. Maybe I didn't. This might be part of my setup. I wonder if they have outside days here. Yes. So I'll do this as an example. So outside days, let's take out previous day range. Where's Amazon? I need to go to the chart. Okay, so outside days is essentially this is your day yesterday. Price action was, why am I on the swing chart? Duplicate tab. Let's go here. Amazon. Okay, this is better. This is yesterday's price action. You can see the high of the day was here, low of the day was here. So the outside day is simply we opened up outside yesterday's price range, and that's simply what outside day is. Obviously, it's a bit of a big drop, but maybe we can see something else around. No, no. Oh, almost. No, not quite. So we're going to have to use the Amazon as the example. So the stock opened well outside the range of yesterday's range, all the way down here. So the gap was, I don't know where it actually closed, but maybe here, 8%. So that's massive. It's a terrible example, but you can see that it's on the outside. It's in place. It's still on the outside of yesterday's range. That's what it's trying to tell you. And you can see it's just a really bad example because it's such a big percentage. Just imagine it opened up below, and then you can go into the actual report and it tell you what the likelihood of it coming back up to yesterday's range is. So, what I mean by that is, if Amazon stock opened up here, the likelihood would be 40% to get back up to this line, which is the bottom of yesterday's range. And what it does after that, it's not up to you. You're basically trading it from here to here. Of course, the data would be ridiculous if it was opened up here because the likelihood of it returning back up to yesterday's range is very thin, as you can expect. But outside days is one I want to kind of get used to. Again, it's one of those you have to kind of trade at the beginning of the market open, or before you even kind of set yourself up with it. I just don't have that capability because obviously based in the UK, it's difficult for me to do so. It looks like Tesla is dropping, so this trade would have been beautiful. Nice little trade there for Tesla. If we can get that touched by the next 5 minutes, that would be a nice complete trade to end the week on. It'd be nice to see Okay, so let's go over the recap for this trade then. Get rid of that. And where's the power? Yeah. Just wondering how I was going to set this up for a summary. Okay. Maybe I will pop that up. Edge from night. Down to Tesla, 1 hour chart. Take that off, here. Pop that there for now. So I can move over to that in a second. Okay. So the Tesla trade I want to talk about now and what we've got into, and it looks like it's kind of on its way to a bit of profitability, is quite simply with the power hour breakout report, what we're doing is we're identifying if the stock is near the highs or the lows of the day. In this particular case, we've got Tesla near the highs of the day going into power hour. This vertical line here is your entry to the power hour, which is the last hour of the market opening. And you can see it kind of traded up near to the highs of the day. And this is where we want to kind of think about entering a trade. Before we do that, we want to have a look at some other technical parts. So what I've done is I've actually pre-prepared this chart here. You can see there's lots of support here on the left-hand side. It struggled to get through it recently, and what we want to do is add on our line, like so. You can see there's very clear resistance there, so there's potential for it to kind of drop down. So then what we do after that is go to Edgeful. We set up our reports, go to power hour breakout report here on the top right hand corner, and then we scroll down to Tesla, tap on that. And then what we do is go over to the sub report here and go from standard to by weekday. What that does, it filters out all the Fridays in the last 6 months. Or as what I've done here is I've actually got a data range of the middle of April, which is when this particular bull run started. So you can think about it that way as well. You can see there's a 15% chance of a new high of day made on this particular one here. So there was a 15% chance it gets back above this line. And you can see the high of the day there, which was set just before power hour actually. And that's the line we had, as previously showed, with the larger time frame, as you can see there on the screen. So we had a few things going for us here, and subsequently we entered around this sort of area. It doesn't really matter too much. And obviously the stop loss will be just above the data range, the data range being obviously the high of the day. You can go as high as you want really, but it's nice and tight, keeps the risk kind of nullified. And of course we do have a bit of a trend line here, so once that's broken, you're kind of flying. One thing I would note is you would close this 30 seconds before the end of the day, or wherever you see fit really. You could wait to get to the bottom here, but we have got 30 seconds left, so I want to close it there for now. It's just the purpose of this video, of course. So you can see we made a nice 3.4 to 1 ratio trade there, just on the last 30 minutes of the closing on the Friday. So a nice trade to end on there for the Friday. Going into the weekend, we're probably going to have a drop, but we've taken our profit. We move on to the next trade, and that's kind of trading the power hour breakout in a nutshell. Nice and easy. It's that you get used to it. It's obviously a bit of a learning process as always, but yeah, once you've broken through this support, you can keep going. In fact, where my target price was, which was here, I think, it's almost been hit. Sorry, bit of gas. So that is the market. That's the market close. Job done. We need to just review some of the numbers here. Let's go into the daily. So what a wild week it was. I mean, really. We go from yesterday thinking everyone thinks the world's going to end with Bitcoin down 14% and Amazon dumping on earnings and all of the small cap names having an absolute nightmare. We're not out of the woods. I'll tell you that now, and I've told you that before. I don't think we're out of the woods yet. So Amazon, not so good. Barber pretty much flat on the week, actually down from there actually, but still not too bad. Google down on a week. Netflix down on a week. Yeah, I mean we've gone through that already this stream. What I want to touch on is this. I think, yes. So forgive me with all the lines, but if we zoom out to the weekly chart, larger time frame. This is from April of last year, so a significant turning point in the market, with the trend line drawn across the lows there. And that's important to kind of draw out. And even bigger, we go back to COVID. So it's the COVID lows, and then back up to the top of that COVID move, kind of ending, I guess. And that was kind of the beginning of 2022, and we saw that decline pretty much the whole of 2023, and obviously moved up from there. But what I really wanted to kind of touch on here is that we're at a very pivotal point in technical analysis, at least. We'll see what happens with the numbers, but the earnings haven't been brilliant. People just spending so much money, which is going to affect earnings per share down the line, I think. So if we zoom in a bit, this is the weekly chart. Obviously, we've had a bit of a dramatic week, as you would expect. Don't really want to delete these lines. Well, I could delete that one actually. But yeah, this area, this box, which I've been banging on about for about a week now, it's going to be very hard to get through because we've got 1, 2 resistances to get through, and we've basically broken this one already. But we're coming back up to kind of retest it, which we kind of did yesterday, and we kind of did today. So at the very least, Monday we might get a bit of a push up. But if we get a push up into this box and we can see a rejection, we could be going a lot lower. We could be going at least down to, well, here first, and then down to there. So for the US 500 or SPY futures, whatever you want to call it, 6,400 ish, and then back down to kind of 6,100. Seems a bit doomy and gloomy, but just reading the chart. Okay, don't sue me. Can't sue me. And then we go down to the kind of smaller time frames. Let's have a look at the daily, and you can kind of see like a mini trend line here, which we broke down. And again, this is why I drawn this line. So this might be resistance before we get to there. So I'm not saying short the market. I'm just saying be careful if you're going to start any longs. Yeah, that's the end of my stream. It's the end of my week. That's the end of your week. Hope you have a wonderful time off this weekend. If you are time off, if you're working, then I'm sorry, but you know, it's the way the world works. We've got to work. We've got to continue with our lives. But if you enjoyed this stream, make sure you, let's make me nice and big. Nope, I've gone. How do I make it so it's just me? What's this? Whoa, that'll do. If you want to support me, you can subscribe to me on YouTube. I really do appreciate it, at SeanTrades_. And of course, follow me on X at the same handle, at SeanTrades_. Appreciate you watching. If you stayed this long, give it a like, give it a comment. If you've got any questions related to anything in this live stream, then do not hesitate to contact me, DMs on X, or obviously YouTube comment, whatever. Take care, everyone. Have a nice weekend, and I'll see you next week.